Lot's story became known in the Bible mainly because of his involvement with the city of Sodom, that city that was eventually destroyed by God because of his many sins. Lot was the son of Aram, the brother of Abraham, which made him nephew of the great patriarch of Israel. In this video, you will know everything the Bible says about who was Lot. The origin and meaning of the name Lot are uncertain, but some scholars suggest that perhaps the meaning of that name has to do with a cover's veil. The Bible says that after the death of his father, Lot departed from the city of Ur towards the city of Haran, along with his grandfather Terah, his uncle Abram, and Sarai. Then, when Abram left Haran after Terah's death, Lot again followed him toward Canaan. Later, when there was great hunger in the land of Canaan, Lot also descended to Egypt with Abram. And when Abram's entourage was expelled from Egypt, after Pharaoh discovered that he had been deceived by Abram and Sarai, Lot returned along with the patriarch to Canaan. But at that time Abraham prospered a lot, and it seems that Lot was also achieved by this prosperity. Therefore, at one point the herds of Lot and Abraham increased in such a way that the region they were could no longer behave together there, and this eventually caused disputes between the pastors of Lot and the shepherds of Abraham. So Abraham and Lot separated, but at the time of separation, Abraham generously let his nephew choose the land he would like to occupy first. And that's when Lot chose the green plains of Jordan, towards the Dead Sea, near Sodom. Then after breaking up from Abraham, Lot left towards Sodom, and it seems that he quickly got involved with that city's business. Probably Lot even occupied a prominent social position in that city. This is because when the angels of the Lord went to Sonoma, Lot was seated at the door of the city. In ancient times, the most respected members of a city gathered in their gate to resolve the legal matters of that community. But the people of the city of Sodom were extremely wicked. The Bible says that the men of that city were evil and great sinners against the Lord. According to the New Testament biblical text, Lot was even deeply afflicted every day because of the explicit wickedness practiced by the inhabitants of the city of Sodom. But while still in Sodom, there was a battle in which a group of Mesopotamia kings defeated the kings of the cities of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admar, Zeboim, and Zoar. At the time, all Sodom goods were taken, and many of its inhabitants were taken captive. Lot was not an exception. He had his assets taken and was taken arrested. But when Abraham was warned of what had happened, he prepared a troop of men who, in a night battle, managed to defeat the enemy army. And in this way, Lot, his home and his goods were recovered. Even it was in this episode that Abraham met Melchizedek. But this war, involving Sodom, did not move Lot from that city. Then Lot reappears in the biblical narrative when God decided to destroy the cities of the plain between which were Sodom and Gomorrah. But the Bible says that before God destroyed Sodom, Lot and his family were rescued by two angels sent by the Lord. This deliverance occurred by the grace and mercy of God and because of his covenant commitment to Abraham. The Bible says that the Lord remembered Abraham and took Lot from the ruins of Sodom. The way the men of Sodom received the angels of the Lord shows the depravity that brought divine judgment over that city. The men of Sodom wanted to have relations with the angels who were there in human form. And it is also worth mentioning the terrible attempt to pacify the situation when he offered his own daughters to those men. This attitude demonstrated the weakness of law and the harmful effects of that city on it. Since the men of Sodom did not retreat wanting to seize the angels who were in the house of Lot, they were injured in blindness, and Lot received the order to get all their family out of town that would be destroyed. But unfortunately, Lot was resistant to leave Sodom. In fact, it was necessary for the angels to take Lot by the hand and put their family out of town. Lot's family was also warned not to look back during Sodom's escape, but Lot's wife disobeyed this order and was transformed into a salt statue. After leaving Sodom, Lot and his daughters went to a small town. But for some reason, Lot was afraid to keep living in that city and went with her daughters for a cave in a mountainous region. And that's where something disastrous occurred. Lot's daughters pregnant from his own father after drunk him. And of these incestuous relationships were born Moab and Ben-Ammi. The first was the ancestor of Moabites, while the second was the ancestor of the Ammonites. These two peoples brought many problems to the Israelites and the rest of the biblical history. And this episode involving Lot's daughters is a great proof that the Bible never hides the mistakes, defects, and failures of its characters. which once again reaffirms that salvation, in fact, is only by the grace of God and not by human merits. In addition to the references in the book of Genesis, Lot is quoted very rarely in the Bible. In the Old Testament, his name appears only in two other mentions to his descendants. In the expression sons of Lot in Deuteronomy 2 and Psalm 83. Already in the New Testament, Lot is mentioned by Jesus in the Gospel of Luke in a passage with eschatological emphasis, where the Lord recalled the destruction of Sodom and Lot's deliverance. And finally, the Apostle Peter also quoted Lot in his second epistle, in another mention of the episode of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, thus finalizing everything that the Bible says about the story of Lot, a man who had the opportunity to learn from Abraham, the father of faith, a man who himself was a living proof of the Lord's provision, but still ended up having a pathetic ending. Unlike his uncle Abraham, Lot was not guided by faith, but was guided by his own views, and his human eyes led him to Sodom, a city that afflicted him and left deep scars in his family.
Yes, if you got this far, you had focus, presence, and interest. That alone sets you apart from most people who stop halfway. How about leaving a comment sharing what resonated most with you? Also, take a look at the description links. There's more content made with the same care for you. Thanks, big hug, and see you in the next one.